It almost kind of frightens me to look at it. I think I feel like this is gonna fall on me and like crush my skull. I'm just gonna put that somewhere. Ugh. Okay, that's safe down there. My TBR is so out of control, I don't even want to think about it. But I figured I do need to start prioritizing a little bit, especially given the state of the reading slump that I'm in. So these are the 22, I think, books that I absolutely, definitely am going to read before the end of 2024. Maybe don't hold me to that. Except no, do hold me to that. Okay, technically the Ministry of Time is like a current read because I read 10 pages and then I realized that like I wasn't in the mindset to read a book. Also, to be totally honest, I did start this to procrastinate reading Oxygen, which I'm reading for my book club this month. It's like as soon as I said that that was this month's book club book, it is the last thing I want to be reading. This whole thing's such a problem. I should never have started a book club. So I'm definitely not going to start Ministry of Time again until I finish that. You know, that's a promise that I will maybe keep. This just sounds so fun. I believe that it is like a workplace rom-com, just kind of workplace comedy about a bureau that deals with time traveling expats and like helping them adapt to the current timeline, I think. From what I understand though, this has time travel, like a slow burn romance and a failed polar expedition, which sounds like it's trying to do a lot, but I like it when books try to do a lot, so maybe this will be a hit for me. Harvey sent me an arc of Fallen Thorns last November, but I didn't read it because I'm a terrible, terrible friend. But now their like newest book, which is a prequel to Fallen Thorns, it's called Forever Red, that's coming out very soon, and I cannot be that friend that is like, oh well, I still haven't read your last book, so I can't read your new book. So I must redeem myself by reading this imminently. This is like a kind of vampire corruption story. It's got dark academia vibe. It's got Arrow Ace characters and like really intense found family. It really just does sound like a massive win. And I love Harvey, so I'm like inevitably gonna love this. I talked about Chain Gang All Stars in my last video as one of the best books I've read this year, and I very much stand by that. Friday Black is by the same author, and it's a collection of short stories about racism and capitalism and working in retail, which is what I do. I have it on good authority that this is phenomenal, and I'm very much trying to get into my short story collection era. I used to think that I didn't like short stories. I think what I've discovered is that I don't like anthologies. So I'm trying to read more of like collections by a single author, and I'm hoping that Friday Black lives up to like the belief I have that it's gonna be sensational. How to Be a French Girl by Rose Cleary has been likened to The Guest by Emma Cline, which I adore. This is meant to be just like feral girl litfic, and I love feral girl litfic. I think it's about someone trying to just become someone new entirely and like reshape their whole identity, which sounds very promising. Between Friends and Lovers is the second romance book by Shirlene Obuobi. She wrote On Rotation, which I really enjoyed, and I believe that this is kind of like a messy love triangle, like friends to lovers, strangers to lovers. Usually I don't love a love triangle, but I have faith in Shirlene. The Dominant Animal is a short story collection by Kathryn Scanlan. My boss gave this to me and she said, don't look it up, don't read the blurb, just read it, you will like it. And I really trust her, so I'm hoping it's going to be a hit. I have noticed though that the short stories are like emphasis on the short. Some of them are like half a page long, which I'm very interested to see how that goes. But also just look at that, like, isn't that so cool? Like, what a great looking book. Ashely Poston is very quickly becoming one of my favorite romance authors. I adored The Dead Romantics. I adored The 7 Year Slit, and so I feel like a novel love story is gonna be a big hit. This is, I think, about someone who gets sucked into the romance book they're reading and ends up meeting the love interest of that book and kind of falling in love with them. It sounds like something that I wouldn't usually go for, but if I've learned anything reading Ashely Poston, it's that she can make the most like bizarre and not great sounding premise be incredible. So hopefully she pulls this off the same way. Brute by Dizz Tate is apparently about a group of young girls who are like really obsessed with the preacher's daughter in their town, and then the preacher's daughter goes missing. It's written in like a kind of collective first person, which if I'm recalling it right, I think the Virgin Suicides is kind of the same way. Either way, I've been told that this has like Virgin Suicides vibes and that it's just about like weird feral, creepy little girls. And if that's not an Annabelle book, I don't know what is. Hazardous Spirits by Anbara Salam is about spiritualists and mediums in 1920s Edinburgh. Apparently this is very much like a Caledonia Gothic, which I love. Oh, Caledonia is like one of my favourite books. I've read Belladonna, which is her other novel, and I absolutely adored that book. It was so strange and like really atmospheric, and it had a love triangle with a nun. And so I'm really intrigued to read what sounds like a very different book, but like her writing's so incredible, I feel like it's gonna hit the same way. I remember reading the blurb of Blue Ruin when it was on Publishers News, and I like really wanted to read it, so I requested it. I've since forgotten what it's about, and I'm kind of happy about that, because I do love to go into a book blind, but I've had friends who've read it and really liked this, and from what I remember, it's about like status and identity in the art world. I am such a sucker for an art world book. If you want a video that's just like art world books, let me know, because I would happily do one. But I really am excited about this. I think it's going to be phenomenal. Obviously, an imminent high on that list is Intermezzo. I really did kind of feel like one of the chosen ones when this came through my door. I feel very lucky to have been sent this. It's got my name on the back, which is so cool. I love Sally Rooney, and I am absolutely obsessed. I really think one of my favourite kinds of books of any is a chess book. Any book that's set around chess players or the chess world, competitive chess, or just has like chess as a motif, I am gonna eat it up with a spoon every single time. I'm currently losing my mind because like the author of my all-time favourite book is writing a chess book right now, and until I have that in my hands, I will not know peace. But I can make peace in the meantime with reading Sally Rooney's chess book, and I know I'm gonna love it. If I don't love this, like, I don't really know what I'm gonna do with myself. Maybe delete this channel. I don't know, but don't let me down, Sally. The Favourites by Layne Fargo is kind of a Wuthering Heights reimagining set in competitive figure skating. You may not know this, but I had a really intense hyperfixation on figure skating and figure skaters from the ages of like 12 to 15. I really thought that I wanted to be a figure skater, but I just do not have the coordination for it. So I was like very immediately intrigued when I saw the premise for this book. It doesn't actually come out till January 25, but I've had this proof sitting on my shelf for a while, and so I feel really bad about the fact that I haven't read it yet. The sun's come out in like a really aggressive way. So wait, oh my god, that's so much. Okay, I'm gonna like, is that better? No, that doesn't feel better. Is that better? Well, I think it's the best we got, so I hope it's better. It has literally been like miserable and overcast the whole day, and now it's doing this. I mean, there's nothing to be done. The Love Interest was a recommendation from a colleague. This is a YA superhero rom-com about this girl Jenna who gets saved by like this kind of newly minted superhero, and she's the first person that he saves, so she kind of gets dragged into his orbit and cast as like the love interest, and so she's having to like sign all these contracts and stuff and like waivers and whatnot. It sounds so fun and like really fresh and really original. By all accounts, it's like so funny and like such a good time. I feel like I'm gonna race through it and I feel like this is gonna be I usually, when I've read something like really heavy, I like to have a happy book to read after it, and I think I need to save this to be like that happy book. I am such a big Emily Henry fan, and I wanted a proof of funny story so bad. Anybody who was like seeing my Instagram stories during that time, just pretend you didn't. I'm embarrassed about the way that I behaved. But I got a proof and then I didn't read it like an asshole. So hopefully very soon I will be reading this. I've heard it's like quite different to her other stuff, and it's like very rom-com-y, which sounds fun. I'm really excited. I think like the way that she writes dialogue and banter, I always really enjoy. So to get a book that really leans heavily on those elements, I'm really excited about. Happy Place made me just cry and cry and cry, so maybe this one will like heal me a little. I guess we can but hope. Clean is like a literary thriller, which is always my bag. This is narrated by this nanny who has been locked in this room. We don't know who's locked her in the room or why. And then she's kind of narrating the story and about the family that she works for and what happened to the little girl that lived there. Everyone who I know who has read this says that it is like so sensational and just like an absolute slam dunk. So I'm really hoping that it's the same for me. I will be very sad if it isn't. Another arc that I got sent and then haven't gotten to yet is When the Moon Hatched, which everybody says, word on the street, this is like as fun as Fourth Wing, but with like actually good writing. So I'm very intrigued by this. Usually like I go into really hyped romantasy with a 10 pinches of salt and a massive degree of skepticism, but I'm cautiously optimistic that this is going to be a really good read. Maybe what I need to do this year, like for the rest of the year, is just go through my proof shelf and read all of those. I always feel terrible when I get sent stuff and then like I never get time to read it, or I just get pulled into reading other things. It makes me feel really bad, and so I think I need to like sort through my ARC shelves and figure out exactly what I'm doing with everything, because so much of them, like, they're out now. They've been published a while, so I need to do something about that. Okay, this stack is like entering dangerous territory, but yeah, it'll be right. I love Adjei-Brenyah. I have never read a book of theirs that wasn't 5 stars, and I think they do such a good job of writing in a ton of different genres and like writing in very different styles and for different age ranges, but always so brilliantly. Everything they write just has like so much kind of lyricism and real visceral emotions. Little Rot is meant to be their most violent book and their most kind of hard-hitting and intense, so I'm kind of saving it until I'm like really in the space to read it, but I do think it's going to be extraordinary. A Dark and Drowning Tide will be my first time reading Alison Saft, but a lot of my friends really love her, and this is like dark academia, academic rivals to lovers. It's sapphic, it's like folklore fantasy. Every single thing I've heard about this book has just been like tick, 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 tick. I know this is going to be really phenomenal. It's such a me book. I know I'm gonna love it, unless I don't, in which case I will be truly devastated. Nightwood by Juna Barnes is kind of a classic of black queer feminist literature. I don't know that much about it, like blurb or plot wise, but I've read a lot of quotes from it, and all of them really just drew me in and really made me want to read this book. They just sound so strange and really beautiful, and it sounds like it's going to be bizarre and gorgeously written and everything that makes me love a book. So hopefully I really feel like this is going to be a big win. I am always hesitant to tell people that I've never read any Bret Easton Ellis, especially because I'm such like a big Donna Tartt fan. I feel like I've let down her bestie, but I'm going to start with The Shards, which seems like maybe is the wrong choice. My understanding of this book is that it is kind of pseudo autobiographical. I mean, I know the main character is called Bret, but that it's about like a bunch of boys at a prep school, I think, whilst there's a serial killer on the loose in LA. I don't know. I kind of want to go into it blind. I'm really excited to read it, and I'm really hoping I like it because I own a lot of Bret Easton Ellis books, but I haven't read any of them yet. So if this ends up being like a dud, I'm, you know, knowing myself, I probably won't pick up any more of his. So there's a lot riding on this. I am a huge, huge, huge Silvia Moreno Garcia fan, and The Seventh Veil of Salome I think is almost a romance, but I know it's set in kind of the film world and in like the golden age of Hollywood, which is a huge interest of mine. I actually used to like work in film, and I'm a big like vintage film and vintage fashion person, so I'm really hoping, if I've like understood properly what this book is about, that this is probably gonna be my favorite of hers, though Untamed Shore is like, that's gonna be hard to beat. I really love that book. I'm quite deliberately, I don't want to know too much about it. All of the books I've read of hers in the past, I've always had the best experience when I've gone in blind. So this is, that's definitely what I want to do here. I have like one more book, but maybe that's going to be too much for the stack. I don't know. And last but not least is Hench. This, I think, is kind of like The Boys. It's about the dark side of superheroes, and I think it's about someone who takes a job as an assistant to like a supervillain for the health insurance and then gets injured by one of the heroes like on the job, and so she's trying to like take all of these people to court to basically get like workers' comp. Everyone says that it's very funny but really dark. It's got like a very dry, dark sense of humor, and that it's like a very interesting take on superheroes and superhero lore, and turns a lot of existing tropes on its head. It just sounds so cool. I'm really excited. It feels like really fresh and inventive, and definitely something that really like just kind of grabbed me when I saw it on the shelf. I'm super excited about this, but I have also been saying that for I think maybe 2 years now. I think I bought this like 2 years ago, and every day I look at it and I think, oh, I want to read that soon, and then I never do. So I'm definitely gonna read this by the end of the year. I know I've said that about all of these books, but I think this is the one. I was going to try and like pick these up to film the outro, but I think I might die if I do that. So we can just look at them instead. I am really, really hoping I do actually read these. I might just leave the stack out and then that might motivate me. But whatever happens, I am just so desperate for this reading slump to end. It's like every day I want to read and I want to read, and there's so many things I want to be reading, but my brain is just not having it, and like I feel like I can't focus. And I've also been writing a lot because I set myself some stupid deadline, and so now I have to like write all the time. Blah. And like, yeah, that's fun, but I also just want to be reading. So if you see me on the street and I'm reading something that isn't these, then take matters into your own hands. Thank you so much for watching. Hit subscribe if you want to stick around, and I will see you next time. Bye.